What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and we're going to be talking about big signing news. Wasn't a trade, like, the trade frenzy that we were talking about yesterday with straight up just, oh, we're the Cleveland Browns, and we're straight up just going to make, 13 goddamn transactions. But it is Richard Sherman agreeing to a 3-year, $39 million deal with the San Francisco 49ers. That's pretty good. It's pretty much what the contract would have been in Seattle. I think it's roughly around $13 million per year. I think $5 million guaranteed, or I don't know what it was exactly, or signing bonus or something like that. But he got paid. He got paid. But when you look at this as the San Francisco 49ers, they had a bunch of salary cap. And if you look at mock drafts, you just look at their team, corner was a big-time need. And they just went out before the open market really started, I guess, like the bidding wars. They were the first team in line. They brought him in for a medical, for a workout, which is kind of like the thing that was hanging over Richard Sherman, is because after, the injury, what was it, an ACL? It was either an ACL or an Achilles. I think it was an ACL. He already was starting to slow down a little bit. Looked like he lost a step in terms of speed. And with an injury like that, that could be a death sentence. But obviously they worked him out. We're impressed enough that they weren't going to let him go. I believe he was going to have an interview with the Detroit Lions. And they said, we're going to sign you and lock you up right now, which is a great move from John Lynch, who was kind of a questionable GM hire. And he's had some ups and downs, but a lot more ups than downs, which is kind of expected from a new GM. I mean, the Jimmy Garoppolo was a... the fact that they didn't give up a first-round pick and they got a guy that, shows that much promise was an excellent move. He drafted pretty well. Solomon Thomas is a work in progress, but he probably should take a big step year 2. You got Kittle that looks nice. You got the Marquise Goodwin signing. You're able to land Kyle Shanahan, who was one of the most coveted coaches, even though he kind of had a bad Super Bowl. And really the only, so far, I would say, outside kind of like the questionable money they paid Kyle Juszczyk at fullback, making the most expensive fullback of all time, pretty much the Reuben Foster deal was the only thing that probably kind of bit his ass. And that didn't even really, because Reuben Foster played very, very well last year. But there was a reason why he slipped down to where he did in the draft, and the fact that they traded up to get a guy that looks like, you can't fix stupid. He's going to probably face 5 or 6 game suspension this year. That might come back to bite him in the ass a little bit. But this here is, a tremendous start. If you kind of look at the San Francisco 49ers offseason, I really do think they should re-sign Carlos Hyde. I don't think that they're going to be fine with Joe Williams and Matt Breida. I think Hyde probably won't cost you an arm and leg and still is very dynamic in that offense. But if you just look at their offseason so far, they've pretty much just straight up, they re-signed Kilgore, who's a good center. They locked up Marquise Goodwin, who was very, very good for them last year. They got Jimmy Garoppolo extended, which, personally, I might have looked towards doing the tag a little bit and just seeing for the first couple weeks. If he looks far, then pay him that much money. I don't think the market would have drastically changed. Then again, I mean, who knows what happens when Kirk Cousins gets signed, if that just destroys everything. And they might have saved a couple $1 million by doing the Garoppolo extension now. And now you bring in Richard Sherman. Getting ready to play the Legion of Boom 2 times a year. I mean, that is already a somewhat exciting storyline. I'm not one for storylines, personally. And when you look at their secondary, like I said, you look at any mock drafts, more often than not, you have the San Francisco 49ers, myself included, looking at a Denzel Ward, looking at a Josh Jackson, drafting the top corner available. Now with Richard Sherman, I think Ahkello Witherspoon has shown enough promise that he could probably be penciled in as a starter. K'Waun Williams is a solid nickel. So now you have Witherspoon, Sherman, and K'Waun Williams. That's a solid secondary. Jaquiski Tartt is a very underrated strong safety, and Jimmy Ward's capable at free, or you have that Colbert guy who got some meaningful snaps. They just went from having a issue at secondary to that really being not #1 priority. I think now when you look at the draft, they could probably just straight up switch to a best player available. Maybe a Quentin Nelson if he slips. Maybe look for a linebacker because there's some uncertainty with Reuben Foster and Malcolm Smith's coming off an injury. Wide receiver, get your big-bodied guy, maybe trade back a little bit. Try to maybe get a guy like Courtland Sutton who adds something to the wide receiver core that you don't have. It's a great move there, I think, for the San Francisco 49ers. And you get a guy that's familiar. He obviously wants to be out on the West Coast. And I think that this is the kind of splash move that the 49ers could make because they have the salary cap. And why not make it when, a guy like Richard Sherman, I know a lot of people are quick to jump on the bandwagon that he's overrated. He only played on one side in Seattle. He's a product of the Seattle defense. He's done. He's over the hill, this and that. I've always been a fan of Richard Sherman. I've always liked Richard Sherman. And yeah, he's probably, for me, I've had him for a long time in the top 3 corners in the NFL. And over the last year or so, he's kind of been in he can be top 5. I think now you pretty much have to resign to the fact that he's top 10. But when you look at the defensive secondary the 49ers had last year, saying that now they have a top 10 cornerback that can play on his day like a top 5 corner, I think that's a very good move. I have a Niner fan buddy that's very, very excited by this, and he hates Richard Sherman. I mean, a lot of 49er fans probably a little bit upset about this one because a lot of them have grown over the last almost decade to hate Richard Sherman because he is a loudmouth guy, the whole Michael Crabtree thing, the whole playoffs thing. But he's now your asshole. It's kind of like the way I looked at the Philadelphia Eagles when we brought in Michael Bennett. Yes, he's an asshole, but now he's your asshole. So let me know if you're definitely a 49er fan. Let me know what you feel about this in the comments section below. Ultimately, man, I think this is a really, really good move for the 49ers, especially to jump out ahead, save the Detroit Lions, and letting really Richard Sherman leave town. So it's good. It's good business. So let me know, like I said, let me know what you guys feel about this trade in the comment section below. I'm sure we'll be talking again over the next couple of days as all the front office guys are saying that this is going to be a trade crazy offseason. So we'll be back with that one. As always, if you're first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.